if ever you were to go to Epcot in Florida, which is one of the Disney exhibitions there, in Epcot they have got a little ride that takes you through a wonderful hydroponics garden. So that is well worth seeing if you're in any slightest way interested in the idea of maybe rooftop gardening on top of skyscrapers and stuff like that, or how do you do farming or on a spacecraft long term possibly. So that is literally an idea of how can you grow plants without soil just using a nutrient solution. It tells you a whole lot of background information about hydroponics. And then the question here, actually, it gives you a nice little table on the different elements that those tomato plants generally need. Different plants have got a different requirement for different elements. However, here it tells you during the growth phase, nitrogen is needed an awful lot and magnesium is needed an awful lot. Why would we need to have increased levels of those two minerals? You get 2 marks, so literally be specific. What do you get nitrogen used for? Nitrogen is one of the key components of amino acids as well as nucleic acids. Magnesium, without magnesium, you get chlorosis. Your leaves will go yellow. The chloroplasts will not function the way they should, and the plant won't be able to photosynthesize effectively. So the 2 bits that need to be clearly there, nitrogen for proteins or nucleic acids and magnesium for chlorophyll. If you had written that without magnesium you get chlorosis, I did let you get away with that. I can't just have a general you get chlorosis. Had you written that without nitrogen you don't get growth, that is still a bit too general. You don't get growth because you cannot produce proteins or nucleic acids. Okay, the next part is one where I've decided, you know what, you are getting 3 marks thrown at you, because literally 3 marks of this here are from the plant physiology part that you haven't been taught yet. So that would be component 3 material in a component 1 paper. 1 mark, however, you should be able to get, actually 2 marks you should be able to get, if I'm being quite sneaky here. It gives you that the ions pass from the water in the soil in the solution into the xylem, and you need to have the whole thing aerated. What is in air that might be needed for the transport of ions? The keyword that you need to click in here is that you need active transport, and for that you need to have ATP and oxygen for the transport protein to actually work. So that mark I expected you to have, that you actually get the idea that there's active transport involved, therefore you need oxygen. Aerated basically means there's oxygen present. It's one of those keywords, if you're saying it and you're actually trying to avoid saying something specific in it, if an exam paper question is phrased in that way, think through what is actually in air. Is it oxygen, is it nitrogen, is it carbon dioxide? What is it that you want from the air? The other parts that you would not have been able to do, the apoplast and the symplast pathway, you wouldn't have been able to see what the pericycle is, sort of the range of cells around and then movement across the Caspian strip and the water movement following afterwards. That entire question I will get back to you as and when we're doing this part in component 3. There's no point rushing this because genuinely you haven't been taught, and this is where I've decided to just give you extra marks and kind of take them away from the total of the marks available. Last part here for question 3. It gives you an example of an investigation that could have been carried out. You need to identify independent, dependent, and control variables. Now, I've had my little mental pickle between, do I give you marks, do I not give you marks, do I not give you marks, do I give you marks? The reason being, it tells you here in the question, nitrate levels. What the hell is that scientific word, levels? As a scientist, my hair starting to stand up everywhere and thinking, hold on a second, are you talking concentration or are you talking what is levels? Okay, so if the question is phrased in that stupid way, then I have to let you get away with saying levels in your answer, even though the mark scheme does say concentration of nitrates as your independent. What are you changing? You are changing the concentration of nitrates, okay? That is the first one here, concentration of nitrates. Then the question is, what is the dependent? The question here gives you both root growth as well as reduced yield. Now, what is it that actually the farmer wants to know? Determine the optimum to achieve a maximum yield. So literally, I personally, when I looked at this, I thought my dependent, that has to be the yield in kilograms of tomatoes or in grams of tomatoes produced. The mark scheme lets you get away with change of mass of roots, which I felt was a bizarre one already. I won't let you get away with length of roots. I'm sorry, I will not let you get away with length of roots, because that just means how deep down does your tomato plant anchor itself, which has nothing to do with how much in terms of tomato is being produced, and a little bit of common sense if it's a farmer, they want to produce tomatoes. So I would, for the dependent, I would clearly have expected a yield, in sort of kilograms or whatever it is. That's what I would have clearly expected there. For controls, so far 1 mark here, 1 mark there. For the controls, my word, the time exposed to each concentration, how much light, how much volume of gross solution you would have had, the temperature of it, you name it, you could have given quite a few there. So quite a few there to get that last mark. And that is it. Question 3 already done.